Bradley Sutter raised his glass, rye sloshing near the rim. Can't even land an entry-level gig, he said, and paused like he'd delivered a punchline. Not fit for a wife like that. They laughed like dogs around a trash fire, sharp, nasty, sure of themselves. My wife, Celine, clinked her glass with his like that was the rim shot. Her smile barely moved, just that little tilt she did when she was enjoying the burn, but didn't want to look mean doing it. I stayed by the island, bottle of Topo Chico in hand, pretending I didn't hear. I'd learned years ago how to wear that kind of silence like armor. My name's Merritt Vale. I was 38 then. I lived in Chicago, on the top floor of the Caspian Club building, a penthouse I designed, above a flagship I funded, inside a group I owned from top to foundation. They didn't know. Nobody did. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from, and let's continue. I'd kept my name off everything. Trusts, shells, proxies. After my father's place got gutted in a buyout, I learned how to own without being seen. It worked, until you start getting called worthless in your own kitchen. Bradley didn't stop. Heard Starbucks is hiring, he added. Maybe he can earn back that lease on the Beamer. Celine laughed this time, out loud. She didn't even glance at me. Colin Rourke, our CFO, leaned back on the bar stool and started bragging about some sommelier he paid off in Bordeaux. Gavin Pelt, development head for the clubs, chimed in with a story about saving a front desk girl from a guy who looked like me, then winked at Celine. She didn't blink. I looked down at my shoes. Brown leather, clean, expensive, but apparently not enough for the joke. Even the lobby guard had a line ready when I stepped out for a delivery drop. Boss lady's friends are upstairs, he said, eyeing my blazer. Try valet. They always need runners. I said nothing. Walked back in, poured more water, sat it down without a sound. Owen Kincaid, my guy in the room, F&B director, stayed quiet too. Didn't crack, didn't flinch, just kept sipping and listening. Later he sent me the audio. Tasting Mike in the kitchen caught every word. I slipped out once they all got loud about whiskey and Column's golf swing. In the study behind the door nobody ever noticed, I opened the secure terminal, pulled up the POS logs, complaint tags. The Olympus group chat was already open, execs swapping memes, mocking staff, some with faces, one with mine. Calder, head of security, had built the folders already, labeled by name. Travel expenses that didn't track. Vendor payments that didn't match orders. Gavin, leaking project files to Kingfisher. Subtle, but there. Back in the hall, I heard Celine laughing again, sharp, effortless, like none of this mattered. I pulled a note card from the desk drawer, wrote 2 lines, 0 tolerance, no amnesty. I slid it back in the drawer. Then I straightened up, walked down the hallway past their noise, and made sure to shut the study door loud enough that it clicked. I walked past them without a word, through the double glass doors into the board wing. Security nodded. I didn't need to flash anything. They'd already been briefed. 10 minutes earlier, I'd been standing in the guest bathroom, palms flat on the granite sink, wiping off a smear from the fake name tag that read Merrick Vale. The clip-on was crooked. The khakis I'd bought for $16 creased wrong at the knee. I looked like someone who barely made minimums, who'd try his best, but wasn't a fit for the lobby. That was the point. I'd arrived before dawn, same way the dish crew came in, through the side corridor past the trash lifts, hair combed back, cheap navy blazer. I told the morning supervisor I was reporting for a trial shift, HR panel to follow. He nodded and told me to wait near the check-in desk. Didn't even ask my last name. They were running live auditions now. Niles Harwood, our slick-haired HR director, had made it policy. Said it showed who had natural polish. What it showed was who could code switch the fastest and who already knew not to wear a regional accent. The test wasn't complicated. You greet a guest, reroute a wrong booking, log a missing item. Nothing dramatic. One kid with a stutter got every task right. Clear voice, solid presence. Niles scribbled something on the evaluation sheet. Later I got the copy. Not a fit, front-facing cadence off. I wrote that down on a card and circled it twice. From the radio tucked in my pocket, Calder's voice came low and steady. His team was planted in the lobby and control room, feeding me chatter. One guard got told, by memo from HR, to redirect the trial to back of house if unfit for first impression. Scripted bias, built-in rejection. Daria would pull the document later with a timestamp. At the front desk, my turn came up. 3 managers sat behind the fake potted fern like it was a casting call. One glanced at my shoes before asking, "Do you feel comfortable learning our systems?" I smiled. I picked things up quick. I'd written the RFP for that software suite myself. Phones buzzed across the table. One of them held up his screen, smirked. I didn't have to guess. My other phone, my real one, not the burner, buzzed in my pocket. Owen had sent the Olympus screenshot. Bradley's caption read, "Celine's charity case tries again." They asked if I had managed more than a coffee line. One interrupted before I finished a sentence. Another stretched and yawned, loud enough for the room to hear. I logged every moment. No reaction, no flinch. Just watched the performance for what it was. Ritual dismissal. During the break, I helped a clerk run a mock check-in. A woman from Milwaukee wanted to move rooms. She had a service dog, and the assigned room had a flickering light. Junior clerk tried her best, clicked through options. Then a floor supervisor stepped in and quietly reassigned the suite. Not to her, but to a golfing buddy due in at 5. I watched the guest's smile crack, wrote down another note. Niles wrapped the session with his favorite exit line, "We'll be in touch." At the elevator, I heard him laugh. Then to another manager, he said, "You can hear the Midwestern in him, not for this lobby." I stared at the doors for 2 full seconds, then hit the button and wrote it alone. Upstairs in the staff restroom, I changed fast. Cheap blazer off, tailored dark jacket on, shoes that actually held polish. I looked like me again, the real me. Pulled my real badge from the breast pocket and clipped it low, where only someone watching would notice. I texted Daria one word, "Proceed." She responded in less than 10 seconds with a thumbs up emoji and a link to the Slack thread. My face was already up on their Funny Moments channel. In the hallway to the board floor, Celine came out of the side wing, laughing with 2 department heads. She saw me, saw the suit. Her smile barely shifted. Then she turned to the manager beside her and said, "Be nice." He looked me over and added, "Sir," like it tasted bad. I walked past them, didn't slow down, didn't give her a glance longer than I had to. My jaw was tight. Not because I was angry, because I'd already gotten what I came for. I knew exactly who they were now, and soon they'd know exactly who I was. I pushed through the boardroom doors and felt every eye turn before I even reached the table. The room sat high over State Street, all glass and sharp corners. Von Tilliard stood at the far end, hands folded, watching me like a man who expected the reveal. He knew parts of the structure. He did not know the center. I didn't take a seat. I walked to the control panel and pressed one button. The screens came alive with a clean diagram. Trust layers, holding companies, operating arms, clean lines, no drama. At the center sat one box, Caspian House Group. Under it, in plain text, founder and owner, Merritt Vale. The air shifted. Bradley's grin cracked first. Column straightened in his chair like posture could fix this. Gavin reached for his phone out of habit, then froze when he noticed Calder and 2 security officers positioned by the door. Niles stared at the conference table as if it might split open and offer escape. Celine stood near the doorway, arms folded tight, eyes steady. "I built this chain from a bankrupt lakeside lodge," I said, my voice even. "I kept my name off everything because I watched raiders gut my father's place down to the copper pipes. I wasn't going to let that happen twice. You've been working for me the entire time." No one interrupted, not yet. I switched slides. The Olympus Telegram chat filled the screen. Names blurred at first. Then one by one they cleared. Bradley S. Column R. Gavin P. Niles H. Eamon K. memes flashed. A hostess's photo with a caption about her weight. A bartender mocked for his accent. A pregnant event manager compared to a walking liability. HR reaction emojis laughing underneath. These weren't jokes, I said. They were habits. I let the next clip roll, panel footage from the audition rooms. Consent notices had been signed months ago under our quality review policy. Audio, clear as day. "You can hear the Midwestern cadence," Niles said in the clip. On another frame, a manager rolled his eyes at a veteran explaining a service gap, the man's limp visible as he shifted weight. The room stayed quiet, but it wasn't calm. Then I put up the money. Column's expense sheets appeared next to supplier invoices, client dinners that matched dates of private parties at his home, a supplier appreciation line item that paid for his son's rehearsal dinner. Bradley's emails showed group room blocks quietly diverted to Kingfisher Hospitality in exchange for a consulting retainer. Gavin's development leads traded for what he called industry favors. Half of it came from invoice trails. The rest came from depositions after Calder sat each of them down alone the week before. I faced them fully. No amnesty, I said, plain and steady. Terminations for cause, no severance packages, non-competes remain enforceable. We will pursue clawbacks where applicable. Vaughn gave one slow nod. Legal slid thick folders across the table toward each man. Celine finally spoke. You're humiliating them in front of the board. I looked at her and held it. They humiliated staff in private and public. You laughed while it happened. Her expression didn't break. Bradley tried to rise out of his chair. This is outrageous and completely... I cut him off by playing a short clip. His own voice filled the room. Smile more or move to laundry, he told a junior manager in the recording. He sank back down without finishing the sentence. Colum cleared his throat. There has to be a dignified exit option. For cause, I repeated. Security stepped forward. You could hear badges being deactivated through the system with small electronic chimes. Phones were placed in evidence bags. I told them to leave company car keys on the center console before exiting. One set slipped from Gavin's hand and hit the wood table hard enough to echo. At the doorway, he turned toward Celine. Say something. She kept her eyes on me. You heard him. Heard. They filed out one by one, shoulders stiff, not looking at each other. The board members stayed seated, silent witnesses to the end of 5 careers built on shortcuts. I closed the slide deck and faced Vaughn. Effective immediately, I said. We start over. Then I walked to the door and held it open while security escorted them down the hall. I held the ballroom door open and watched them file in. Front desk, bar crew, chefs still in their coats, security in polos, bell staff with sleeves rolled. Some came straight from shifts. Some had never been invited to a meeting that high up the chain. We kept the lights bright, no filters, nothing staged. If this was going to work, it had to be bare. I stepped out with as a handful of cards, no slides yet, no script. My name's Merritt, I said, voice steady. You've worked for me without knowing it. That ends today. Chairs creaked as people shifted. No coughs, no murmurs, just stillness. Zero tolerance, I said next. I let it sit. Then the screens came on and Daria took over the mic. I stood to the side while she walked the room through 5 cases. Her voice was dry, clear, and impossible to look away from. Case 1, Olympus chat screenshots. A hostess sobbing in a restroom after seeing her face in a meme, captions that called staff names, HR emojis laughing underneath. People in the room looked down. One manager closed her eyes. A line cook whispered something to a prep chef. No one smiled. Case 2, panel footage, audio from a hiring interview, snickers over a candidate's body type. Midwestern cadence written on the evaluation sheet. Faces were blurred, but the voices weren't. Daria didn't comment. She let the clip finish. Case 3, a banquet upcharge scam. Wedding party charged double for reserve wine they never touched. Side-by-side shots of supplier texts and falsified ledger entries. The banquet's director, Eamon Kells, signed off on both. His name appeared in red, terminated for cause. Case 4, lobby security footage. Guard stopped a man, me, and said, "Runners start at back of house." The script showed up on screen, traced back to HR's training module. The room tensed. Someone in the back said, "Knew it, quiet, but not quiet enough to miss." Case 5, group sales leaks. Room blocks passed to a competitor through personal Gmail, rounded vendor invoices, subject lines that said favors in the open. Daria ended the clip and said, "Not how we do hospitality." Then she stepped back. I walked up and looked around the room. "No blur now," I said. Bradley Sutter, Colum Rourke, Gavin Pelt, Niles Harwood, Eamon Kells, all 5 terminated for cause, no thank yous, no exit gifts. You could hear shoes shift against the carpet. A dishwasher toward the front looked at me like I'd just kicked open a locked door. "These cases will be used in training," I added. "Every new hire will know their names and why they're gone." Then I flipped the card. "We're also undoing what they stalled," I said. "Rowan Day is returning as Director of Guest Experience for the flagship. She raised concerns about hiring bias. She was ignored. That ends today." There was a beat. Then real applause. Not loud, not staged, but honest. I nodded to Savannah at the back. She stepped forward, calm and camera ready, and said, "We're resetting the standard. The line is zero toxicity, radical courtesy, standards without cruelty." Reporters near the wall took it down like scripture. I ended it with one sentence, not a speech, no lecture. Hospitality means we treat strangers like guests and our people like neighbors. Then I stepped off the platform and stood with the staff because I was one of them, and I always had been. I stepped off the ballroom floor and went straight to the smaller conference room down the hall. The applause hadn't even settled in my ears when Reva Salisbury walked in with a binder tucked under her arm like it weighed nothing. She didn't waste time on small talk. She set the binder down hard enough to make the table thud. "I've reviewed the clips," she said. "2 licensing complaints tied directly to HR practices and alcohol service at private events." Her voice was level, not angry, not impressed, just official. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. "Tell me the path to keep every license," I said. She flipped the binder open and slid a page toward me. Full acknowledgement of HR violations, documented remediation plans, supervisor retraining under an ABC-approved curriculum, quarterly audits for 1 calendar year. Daria was already writing before Reva finished the sentence. "If you hedge," Reva added, looking straight at me, "I begin suspension proceedings at 2 of your clubs. That includes temporary closure authority." "We won't hedge," I said. "You'll have written acknowledgement by end of day." She studied my face for a second, like she was checking for bluff. I didn't blink. "Good," she said. "Most owners try to charm their way out of it. Don't." "I'm not here to charm," I replied. "I'm here to fix." She gave one short nod and closed the binder. "Then we'll see you at the first audit." When she left, the air in the room felt tighter, but cleaner. No denial left in it. An hour later, the doors opened again, and Mavis Langford came in with that same steady stride she used when tasting barrels. She owned one of the vineyards we poured by the case. When rumors started about internal culture, she paused a corporate winter series that was worth more than most marketing campaigns. She didn't sit until she looked around the ballroom through the glass wall. "I watched your presentation," she said. "You didn't soften it." "There wasn't anything to soften," I answered. She nodded once. "I'll reinstate the contract. I'll double the tasting events this winter, but I have one condition." "Name it." "Rowan Day runs the guest flow. Your policies can stay on paper. Rowan will teach your floors how to live them." I didn't hesitate. "Done." It wasn't about the revenue, even though doubling that series meant a strong winter quarter. It was about proof that the culture shift wasn't cosmetic. Culture at the desk shows up in the glass. Mavis leaned forward slightly. "One more thing. One of Bradley's senior reps pitched me a private tasting with enhanced pours and a client-only kickback. I declined and saved the messages." "Forward them," I said. "They're already in your inbox." We added the thread to the growing file, another clean receipt. Before she left, she paused near the ballroom doors where Rowan was speaking with 2 front desk supervisors. "You're doing the messy part," Mavis said quietly. "Most owners won't touch it because it gets on their shoes." "I don't mind dirty shoes," I replied. She gave me a look that said she'd remember that. Then she walked out without shaking hands, because this wasn't about ceremony. I stood there a moment, watching Rowan through the glass as she adjusted a host stand and corrected someone's posture without raising her voice. Then I picked up my phone and called legal to confirm the remediation draft was ready for Reva's office before sundown. 2 days later, Celine made her move. She didn't text, didn't knock on my door. She went straight to a reporter she'd known since grad school and fed him a story she thought might stick. The headline she pitched: "Self-appointed controller targets wife's team in private power grab." I heard about it from Savannah before it hit daylight. She'd worked with that reporter before and knew his blind spots. "It's gonna run unless we bury it in paper," she said. "No spin, just proof." Daria met me in the legal conference room. No windows, no distractions, just a safe in the corner with everything that mattered. We opened it together. Founding minutes, signed by me and no one else. Proxy agreements from the holding companies. The trust schedules that proved ownership stacked to me at every layer. And one personal item I hadn't seen in years, my father's loan note, hand-signed and stamped, that had covered the down payment on the first lodge 20 years back. We scanned every page, logged every doc. No summaries, just signatures and timestamps. Savannah built a packet clean enough to survive a courtroom. My name, and mine alone, at the bottom of every line. No adjectives, no excuses. She attached select Olympus chat logs, cropped to the worst lines, like the "maids and pearls" joke, and the comment about small-town husbands playing boss. The article didn't run how Celine wanted. The outlet flipped it by morning. The headline read, "Hidden Owner Shuts Down Bullying at Boutique Group." My name was in the byline. Celine's quote sat next to Riva Salisbury's official statement confirming our full cooperation. It read bitter. Lois, my mother-in-law, called later that day. She'd always liked my quiet more than my ambition. Thought I'd been lucky to marry up into her daughter's world. She opened with the same line she'd used for years. "You're ruining her standing," I told her, calm as I could. "Watch the all-hands footage. Watch the interviews. Then call me back." She did. It took her 2 hours. When she rang again, her voice cracked just enough to notice. "I didn't know," she said. "I raised her to survive rooms like that. I didn't think about the rooms she'd build." I didn't gloat. I didn't say a word back. That night, I called Celine into my office. Told her she was being placed on paid administrative leave pending internal investigation. She didn't flinch. She folded her arms and tilted her head, same as always. "You think you can run this place without me?" I met her stare. "We're about to." She left without slamming the door. That was the last polite thing she did. Hours later, Owen sent me a file recorded from the tasting room at West Loop. 2 senior managers, ones we hadn't cut yet, were joking about the show I'd put on. One said I'd turned into a dramatic front desk messiah. I didn't need to guess who. I knew both voices. I texted Calder at dawn. By 8 o'clock, both men were walked out. Riva's office sent their remediation terms in writing. Daria co-signed and returned it same hour. Savannah posted our policy update publicly, side by side with Riva's statement. Mavis Langford sent me a thumbs up with a meeting invite for a new winter tasting calendar. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling like it might finally settle level. After years of watching one leg of the table wobble, it felt like we'd finally cut it straight instead of stuffing sugar packets under it. That night, I didn't go home. I crashed on the couch in my office with the lights low and the hallway quiet. Sometime past midnight, one of the chefs knocked soft and walked in with a plate of roast and cold potatoes. He set it down and said, "We're fine. Just keep the worst of it out." I nodded once and meant it. Then I picked up the fork and ate every bite. It was the first real meal I'd had since the night they laughed. The following week, we cracked open every banquet supplier file from the last 3 years. Daria brought in a team of 6. They used 3 highlighter colors, yellow for pricing irregularities, red for personal benefit markers, and green for any line that smelled like hush money. By day 2, the pattern wasn't just clear, it was offensive. Column's signature popped up all over the worst pages. Miscellaneous guest appreciation showed up again and again next to invoices for premium wine we'd never stocked. We matched the purchase dates to photos from his backyard, catered parties, full spreads, labels on display, wine our clients never saw. Bradley had gotten even sloppier. He used fake associate accounts to email room block details to Kingfisher's sales team. Calder traced the login IPs to a hotel Wi-Fi 3 blocks from our West Loop property. He might as well have sent it from our own lobby. Gavin's paper trail looked fine at first glance. Development memos, partnership proposals, professional formatting. But underneath that, he funneled member contact lists to an outside broker. We found the invoice buried in vendor paperwork labeled Strategy Consulting. The broker, of course, was on Kingfisher's preferred vendor list, but the quietest rot came from Niles. His panel templates, the ones used to vet front-of-house hires, were full of phrases like cadence, energy, and appropriate look, legal on the surface. But when you compared them to panel outcomes, it was clear. Those words were gatekeeping in disguise. When you saw who kept getting marked not a fit, it stopped being subtle. Once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. We canceled 9 supplier contracts over 48 hours. 3 brokers got formal notice. No further business, ethics policy violation. 2 vendors tried to offer fixes. Extra cases, comped rentals, backdated credits. We turned them down flat. Daria replied to both with the same sentence. "We do not negotiate against our standards." Riva's office sent a junior team for surprise walkthroughs at 3 club bars. No heads up, we welcomed them in. She came along with them, quiet and methodical, clipboard in hand. They checked pour logs, interviewed bartenders, and asked about past pressure to overserve VIPs. One of our newer bartenders said, "It feels different now. We don't have to fake smiles if someone's crossing the line." We learned more in those 5 minutes than in any training deck. Savannah sent a letter to every client with an open banquet event. It wasn't a panic letter. It was steady. We were putting new guardrails in place. No more last-minute upcharges. No quiet extras buried in bills. At the bottom of the letter was a hotline number. On the other end sat Daria's team, not marketing. That was deliberate. While all that moved upstairs, Rowan took over desk training on the ground. She started with posture, how to stand without shrinking. Then tone, how to say no without saying no. Then escalation, how to stop a manager from bulldozing a guest without making it a scene. She walked front desk leads through 10 scenarios in 2 hours, made it look simple. It wasn't. Somewhere in the middle of all that, I stood in the back corridor of one of the clubs and realized something strange. I was breathing easier, not because the work was done, but because, for the first time in years, I was seeing these places the way a guest saw them, and the way a new hire saw them. And once you see your house like that, it never leaves your sight. It didn't take long for the counter-pressure to start. Within 2 weeks, all 5 of the men we terminated had called lawyers. A couple of them called in favors from board members they'd golfed with or loaned cigars to. Their attorneys came back with soft phrases like settlement pathways and mutual resolution. Vaughn handled it the same way I did. Terminations were for cause, he said. No severance, no non-disparagement clauses, no buyout language. Then he hung up. Word got out fast. Kingfisher stopped returning calls from Bradley and Gavin. We didn't have to say a word. They'd already seen the invoice trails and didn't want the stain. 2 of the caterers we flagged quietly cut ties with them too. Liability follows paper, and we'd kept the receipts. Daria filed clawback actions for misused funds where we had solid ground. Column's personal event expenses, Gavin's broker payments, Bradley's kickback accounts. It wasn't about revenge, it was just math. Clean paper, judges respect math. Around that time, a curated version of the Olympus chat logs hit an industry forum. Daria blurred staff names but kept the content clear. Our note under the post said, "We will use these in staff training as examples of what never happens here again." The people behind them no longer work for us. The message didn't need a press release. It traveled on its own. ABC posted their own update days later. No license suspensions, audits in progress, full cooperation from CHG. That sentence bought more goodwill than any publicist I could have hired. We got a knock at the main office one morning. Labor inspector. He'd seen a cluster of old complaints about scheduling abuse and surprise overtime. Complaints we'd actually self-reported during the cleanup. He asked to see the fixes. I walked him through them myself. Shift bids were posted on time now. Overtime capped with manager guardrails. Back pays already processed. Staff had access to logs through their own portals. He looked around like he expected a fight. Didn't get one. Before he left, he said, "Most groups talk this stuff. You documented it." He walked out smiling. That never happens. Bradley tried to claw back attention with a podcast. Cheap mic, basement energy. Called me thin-skinned and power-drunk. Said I couldn't handle being called out by real operators. A former hostess, now one of our new floor managers, posted a screenshot of the Olympus meme he'd made about her. No caption, just the image and her new job title. The comments chose her. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. A few days later, the lobby guard who'd once laughed at me near the valet desk asked to meet. He was nervous, kept adjusting his cuffs. "I thought it was a joke," he said. "The script they gave us made it sound like that's how we treat family of execs. I didn't think." I let him speak. He apologized, plain and without excuses, said he wanted to stay, but not if I didn't believe him. We kept him. Calder moved him to night audit at his request. New shift, new chance. He wasn't one of the 5 who had to go. Everyone deserves one chance inside a better system. The others, they never called back, never apologized, never owned it. Didn't matter. In this industry, headlines fade, but reputation doesn't. I didn't need to blacklist them. They built the walls themselves and left their names right on them. We sat across from each other at the dining table like nothing had changed, except everything had. No candles, no wine, no quiet jazz in the background, just the 2 of us, the same chairs, the same skyline outside the window, and a folder between us. I laid it down slowly, opened it so she could see what I brought, photos, audit logs, Olympus chat screenshots where her reaction wasn't silence or shame, but laughing emojis. A couple were timed within seconds of jokes about employee looks, one about a busboy's accent, one about my shoes. "You didn't just let it happen," I said. "You made room for it. You let them perform who they were." Celine didn't flinch, didn't reach for the papers. She looked straight at me and asked, "Is there any path back?" I should have felt angry, should have wanted a speech or a fight. I didn't. What I felt, though I hate to admit it, was relief. "No," I said, "not to this job, not to this marriage." Daria's deposition summaries had told me plenty, but one line stuck. Celine had personally flagged a banquet bill for override, Bradley's name on it, extra wine added, no guest count to match. A small thing, a quiet thing, a signal. She didn't deny it. That same night, Lois stopped by like it was any other Sunday. She had a pie in one hand and a folded dish towel in the other. She hugged Celine first, soft and short, then turned and hugged me longer than I expected. "You're doing your job," she said. "I didn't raise her for this part, but I raised her to own what she did." It was the closest thing to grace I'd seen in a kitchen. I moved Celine's things out 2 days later. No security, no shouting, no staged photos for sympathy. We had a condo 2 blocks away, quiet, furnished, held under one of the trusts. I changed the access code on the penthouse and sent her a formal letter through council outlining her leave terms, restrictions, and investigation timeline. Clean, direct, not cruel. She tried once more to spin it, posted a message on her old college forum claiming she'd been blindsided by a controlling spouse who'd hidden his title to stage a coup. It didn't go far. The Olympus chat logs were already public. The HR panel tape was already in industry rotation. She deleted the post by nightfall. Owen texted me later that week, said he overheard Celine at a wine tasting telling 2 junior managers he always wanted to be seen. Now he will be. He didn't respond. He didn't have to. Both of those managers had already transferred into Rowan's department and were doing stronger work than we'd ever seen from them under Celine's side. 1 week after that last conversation, I filed for divorce. No press release, no public fight, just a filing and a quiet nod from Vaughn when I told him it was done. If there's a lesson in it, it's this. You find out who people really are when the room is laughing. You find out who you are when you decide whether to laugh with them or stand up. I changed the door code that night, cleaned the kitchen myself, bought fresh limes, and put them in a bowl by the sink the way I used to when the place still felt like mine. It looked like someone lived there again. I'm 56 now, telling you what happened when I was 38, and about the 6 months right after that. That was 18 years ago. We still post those 5 cases every quarter during onboarding. The names aren't blurred anymore. That was my call after we finished the legal work. You want a culture that sticks, you name the rot that didn't. ABC audits came clean 4 straight years. Riva sent 1 line in an email. Keep going. Still the best note I've ever gotten from a regulator. Labor inspections stopped feeling like interrogations. Now they're just check-ins. Clipboards don't scare us anymore. Mavis doubled again. Her people asked Rowan to train a partner property in Sonoma on guest flow. Rowan said yes, built a 1-sheet playbook, handed it over, and didn't put her name on it. That's the kind of person who keeps a place honest. We brought back 34 staff who'd been pushed out under the old regime. No speeches, no confetti, just steady schedules, clear leads, and a desk they could trust. Productivity went up. Complaints went down. The silence on the hotline, that's the kind you want. Bradley hosts a podcast with maybe 20 listeners. Colum consults for a cousin's trucking outfit. Gavin gives talks on career pivots to junior sales teams. Niles posts about workplace empathy with the comments turned off. People send me links. I don't click. Celine signed the divorce papers. No kids, no fight over the company. The prenups held because I wrote them to outlast my ego. Lois still sends holiday cards. They say things like, "Proud of you both for telling the truth, even when it hurt." I walk the floors twice a week. Fridays, I stand at the host stand and pour water if a runner's behind. I shake 2 hands, remember 1 name, and write the others down. You can't lead a house you don't love enough to sweep. People ask me about the night I fired them. They want a speech about revenge. But the best part wasn't the firings. It was watching a shy night auditor finally crack a joke with a guest because he felt safe. The rest was just work. The board talks expansion now. I tell them growth comes only after culture becomes habit. We'll open 2 new properties when Rowan says we're ready, not a day before. If you ever find yourself in a room where the laugh lands on you, remember this. You don't have to outshout anyone. You just have to own the room when it matters. I waited. I watched. I picked the moment. No amnesty, no second thoughts. We meant hospitality, and we finally proved it. Before I sign off, when people in your life try to shrink you, what's your first move? Call it out, collect proof, or walk away? If you've got hype, please tap it to boost this. And please subscribe, hit like, and drop a quick comment, even good story, so more people find it.